Well, it's a very good morning and welcome back from Ruben Impima Chibirango with his sports update this morning, and of course the entire Good Morning Uganda team that was here this particular Friday. My name is Jagana Samakola Ziksoka, thanking you and of course welcoming you to our Pan-African Friday today. It is the 5th of this month of February in this year, 2021. Another lovely day. Now today is just the eve of the 40 years of the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Tomorrow will be Tarehe Sita. It's a day that we remember very much and very well. When we talk about Tarehe Sita in our Ugandan context and of course with our Ugandan history, we know that, we cherish it, and tomorrow of course there will be celebrations which will be held at Mbuya tomorrow. The president yesterday was speaking to us and he promised and said he will talk about more of the things tomorrow when we celebrate Tarehe Sita. Now from Tarehe Sita, welcome to our Pan-African Friday, and of course in studios is the Pan-African team of UBC TV here. Ndugu James Mututa and Cole Monday Amazima, both of you welcome and good morning. James.
Yes, good morning.
Well, thank you so much. And Ndugu Akol, another good morning.
Good morning, viewer.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, briefly about Tarehe Sita for you, because we will not talk so much about Tarehe Sita, even when we would love to talk about the UPDF they're in. But just picking your mind on Tarehe Sita tomorrow.
Well, I can say happy birthday in advance. And secondly, I must salute the officers, men and women of UPDF for actually protecting this country for the last 3.5 decades. You know, in the past, no army had ever done such a thing for actually protecting people's lives and property, even the sovereignty of the country, for more than 10 years. So we can say bravo, but also not forgetting their Pan-African calling, that every other time neighbors had problems, South Sudan, Somalia, they've said, look, even when other African countries have like dragged their feet, they say, no, look here, we are here to save and work for the continent. So we also have to say bravo to that initiative, not forgetting that any army, any institution is as good as its leadership. So that, all that bounces back to the commanding chief.
Okay. Mututa, comment on the UPDF at 40.
Yes, it has been a long time, 40 years, but also it has been a good time because we've been talking about professionalizing the army and the other forces. So I think this 40 years has also given the UPDF the time to plan, talking about organizing and organizing, and time to organize, but also that of course there could be shortcomings here and there, but definitely UPDF is one of the best armies on the continent, because both internally but also externally, having supported our brothers in the African spirit, the neighbors, the Great Lakes region has been key, and I think we as Ugandans we need to salute the UPDF for that role.
Well, just before we run it from the UPDF, lately there's been this discussion in media, social media, everywhere, in public space, of UPDF not being in position to protect Ugandans in the wake of these alleged kidnaps of there's a drone here, there's a drone there, and people are thinking, yes, you are doing a Pan-African duty to secure, to protect, to defend. The others, the neighbors, you know, they've done and excelled on that. How about when it comes here and people are just getting worried? Somebody doesn't know whether if they come to work like this in the morning, they are sure that they will actually get back home safely in the evening, in the wake of these kidnaps here and there, and quite a number of things that have also put the UPDF in some spotlight. Isn't this also tainting their image as they grow with all the successes that they've accumulated over the years?
But entirely that's not the role of the UPDF, because the demarcations are clear. For I know as a force, they need to be alert and help when necessary, but those are internal matters of the more relatively the police to be able to do that. Maybe issues of reporting mechanism, issues of investigations, issues of monitoring, because then you know issues of internal mechanisms are more complex than external. When you have an enemy coming from outside, it is easy to detect. But an enemy within is problematic. But then it means that the internal mechanism, the internal security systems need to work closely, because that is not a role entirely for the UPDF.
Akon, on that, before we get into the issues.
Well, I must say that in 40 years, definitely they've had challenges here and there. You see, at one time, their ratings in terms of their relationship with the wananchi was very, very high. Still, at some point, actually, it had actually gone down. And we see every other time that rating goes down, UPDF goes back on the drawing board to make sure that they improve their image, not only in Uganda, but also on the continent. Yeah, and it has maintained their history of being a people's force. A force that works with the people. And every other time I always like one of their songs. They say, kazi ngumu tuliofanya na wananchi wenyewe. Yes, that difficult work we did with the citizens. So implying that they realize that they need to work with the citizens, they need to have a very good rapport, they need to have a very good working relation with the citizens. That's why every other time they're celebrating Teresita, they normally get involved in a lot of community work, meaning that, yes, they say, look here, we are here to serve you, we should always be there for you, and that is the bottom line. Then lastly, let's look at northern Uganda, definitely. Now there is peace, and people say, look here, yes, that is we say connect to UPDF. We used to get attacks from Congo, which are no more.
Our borders are peaceful.
Our borders are very, very, very peaceful. And actually, whoever plans to attack Uganda always do that at their own risk. So that we should also pride in as a country, as a people of Uganda.
Okay. Well, that's very important. We'll run away from all that and get into the discussion for today. And we want to look at today's United Nations Interfaith Harmony Week. I think the celebrations were done yesterday, but it's the Harmony Week that starts 1st to 7th of July. Its history and quite a number of things. And now being an Interfaith Harmony Week, this will draw us to the role or the impact of religion in organizing or antagonizing our democracies, our cultures, our settings, everything. We want to look at that specifically and see how religion has actually been key or pivotal, or how it has helped disorganize or to organize our societies. And Akola, will start with you. Pick your mind on this particular one as we talk about the Interfaith Harmony Week and the role of religion on the continent of Africa in helping us agonize or organize.
Well, the Interfaith Harmony Week, I think it's coming to a decade now, of a decade, since it was actually started by the United Nations as a week to end interreligious or interfaith conflicts, so that the religions can come together and work for the common cause. But again, as we look at there is also intra-religious conflicts. So you find that it's the conflict within the Anglican Church, the conflict within the Muslims, the conflict within the Catholics, and really those have really dominated in some parts of the continent. Now, how religion has played a negative role on the African continent is actually very vivid. I want to take you to a country like Malawi. That in Malawi, most of the education institutions, actually not most, almost all of them, we are owned by the missionaries, the Christian missionaries. So going to school, it meant that you had to be a Christian. In Malawi, you'll even meet somebody called James when they are Muslims. Why? Because that is the only way they would access education. For example, when the second president of Malawi was swearing in, that is Bakili Muluzi, Elson Bakili Muluzi. Actually, the voters, the people of Malawi, got to know that he was a Muslim when he was swearing in, when he was using the Quran. So look here, we thought it was, you see. So that is how religion has been used in a very, very negative way. The late Kirunda Kivejinja here used to say that in those early days, Muslims had to hide their Muslim name. religion. So that they can really get chance to access education and maybe get somewhere. But also next door, South Sudan. There was a time I was in South Sudan, and I met a Catholic Reverend Father by the names of Ali Muhammad. And I was like, a Catholic. He said, yes, here in Sudan, South Sudan, because by that time the fight was actually, it was divided in two. Getting anywhere, getting a chance to go to school, or even having peace, you must have a Muslim name. So you find somebody is called Ali Muhammad, but when he's a Reverend Father, when he's a pastor. Okay. So religion has been used in such negative way that people have been actually forced to belong where they are not supposed to. Okay, yes. Very important. To our viewers, we are discussing the Pan-African Friday here, and of course looking at this particular week called the Interfaith Harmony Week, and the role of the religion in helping us either antagonize or to organize. Mututa, I'll pick your mind on this particular one, because when you look at African democracies, you'll notice that in very many countries, don't go very far away, just go to Central African Republic here, where you find there have always been these clashes and the unrests that are tagged to religious conflicts. When the Pope visited Kenya and Uganda in 2017, was it 2015? In 2015, November 2015, you remember that actually the Pope, after leaving Kenya, I mean leaving Uganda, he also flew to the Central African Republic for I think a night or a day, or whatever that is, to see how that happens. Now, in Central African Republic, the Catholics in there will tell you that they do believe that the Holy Virgin Mary actually hails from their own land. And so if you come to be president or leader in that country and you are not a Catholic, they really feel you're coming to the wrong place, because you can't be anything less than a Catholic, and you're coming to the birthplace of the Holy Virgin Mary, and you want to lead and you want to be all these things. We've seen these things play out. When it comes back to our local domestic politics here, they will tell you so-and-so can't have that particular position because they are not Catholic. That position is ring-fenced for a Protestant. That position is, we normally have these things, you know. So when we talk about the Interfaith Harmony Week that we talk about here, in the Ugandan context, for example, we have the interreligious faith, where we've seen for some years now, the different religious leaders sitting together to dialogue on issues of common interest, of course not doctrine, but issues of common interest. But still it doesn't come over well with so many people looking and watching a lot of things. How much has religion done to agonize our societies, or to help us organize our societies?
Yeah, religion has been an issue from day one of our lives, especially now in the African context, because you have politics also in some countries, like you have put determined by religion, or sometimes you also have religion determined by politics. At the onset, we have had state religions. We have had the Church of England, for example, as a state religion to date. We have had the Vatican and the influences on the Catholic religion. But now, when it comes to Africa, we have looked at religion as something that has been able to support us in our development. Yes, a lot has been done. We have had schools, we have had hospitals, and these have come as a result of some of these religions. And in Uganda, for example, by the time we got to where we are now, I think we started with, it was the religious schools that actually are still prominent. We talk of any big school in this country, and we find it, say, the Catholic or Protestant school. Now, that has been very positive. We have had big hospitals built by the missionaries. Now, but when you look at it at the same time, when the petitioning of Africa was being done, religion was also very key. Because Africans by nature were known to be defensive of their territories, of their systems. And by the time the Western world were living in trees, Africa had moved a little ahead. And in fact, sometimes when you hear of people talking about the Western religion, now, I think there are two things that sometimes we mix. There is Christianity, but there's also religion. Christianity can be structured in a way that you are looking at one direction, but religion can be diverse. Any ideology can
way of life,
yes,
exactly,
can qualify to be a religion. And now, when you look at religion per se, you realize that we don't have a definition for a religion, because there are many religions. You can talk of Christianity because you can trace back the origin. Now, when it comes to Christianity, now religion was fused with Christianity. Like I've been telling people, when you look at Islam and the Arabic culture, sometimes you may not differentiate them, because when you go, when a person moves when you go to church in Saudi Arabia and you find people dressed up in the Arabic culture, people will begin to say, are we the mosque or we're in the church? Because now sometimes it's hard to differentiate between the two. But now religion Christianity did not originate from the West. That's what we need to know. That when you are talking about the religious times, you are looking at the Palestine, you are looking at Egypt, you are not looking at New York, you are not looking at London. And this people need to know, because that by that time, when religion gets to those far Western areas, we Africans had already had the religion. Actually, if that holds anything, then God lived within us before religion went elsewhere. So now, when it comes to the conquest and division of Africa, you realize that religion is being used as a tool, because then the colonizers of this continent realized that by using religion, it will be easier to access Africans. Where there was a lot of resistance, then the missionaries will come in first, talk to their people. And you know, sometimes we have been having this discussion about the matters in Uganda. These really were younger people who were brutally killed. But maybe we don't also look at the dynamics that were involved before they were killed. In the killings, yes. Yes. When you look deep in that, you realize that there was an influence that was foreign. And this influence had to be stopped. Or other than that, then the king will be, the kingdom will be in trouble. So we also have seen that when you go back backward a bit during slave trade, you find that religion is also used. In fact, I think until 5 years ago is when it was discovered that some of the clergymen of the Church of England were paid compensations as among those people who lost money when slave trade was stopped. It means they were part of the slave trade business, and these were men of God. We also see in the Americas, especially in Brazil, that because the Catholic Church was heavily involved in the brutal sugar business, they were also trading in slaves, so that people could buy slaves who could work in the sugar factory plantations. When you look at the slave trade alone, it was the Arabs, by extension the Muslims, who are involved in actually now buying and selling. So I think from the onset, Africa has had a very bad experience with religion. Now, that notwithstanding, you also know that these people who came here, some of them came as explorers, and then one would wonder why you will move all that way to go and discover River Nile.
Somewhere far away. Yes. Yes, you've actually brought and provoked something very important here. To your call, let me get your mind on this particular one. We talk about Pan-Africanism and we want this united Africa. We want to integrate. Now we have all these forms of a united Africa. We have the African Union, for example. We have the regional blocks. We're trying to grapple with ESC here, which we passionately die to see happen tomorrow. And of course all the other regional outfits, SADC, ECOWAS and stuff like that. But yet again, when you look at the continent of Africa itself, and he talked about a particular culture of the Arabs, and if we're trying to look into all these things, you'll notice that even when we all agree that we are Africans, but you'll notice that there are certain things again that will separate us, especially when we look at the religious bit or the religion in one or another. Somebody will say, how can we have a united Africa? How can we have a united Africa? And you have that culture, which is actually a culture but also religion at the same time, with that entire North Africa bloc. What are the realities that we can actually overlook all these things and say, let's look at Islam just as a culture. Let's look at, he's talking about religion now, and it's another very good debate. Is religion Christianity? You know, or is Christianity religion? Because you'll notice that we castigate, for example, the system of education that we have. And we all say we're given a system of education which only helps us to speak English, to dress like officers and all these things, but it's not a system that helps us to actually create jobs, to be job creators but job seekers. Now, the same people who brought this particular education that has taught us to speak very good English that everybody loves and wants, it's the same, they're the same people actually who also introduced this other particular way of worship, this other belief system, which is religion, and do all the things too. Now, we find ourselves excelling on one hand, because you do not find so many people castigate religion saying they brought to us a bad religion, but all of us, even the same religious settings that have built all these very good schools are the same actually that castigate the particular education system that the same person gave to us. Now they gave us a religion which we are actually practicing excellently, and they gave us the education which we've failed or which has failed us, but it came from same hands. I would just want to hear from you on that particular one as we talk about this thing.
Ndugu Jagenda, you know, the Pan-African slogans is don't agonize, organize. But also the other is one struggle, many fronts. So the fronts are many. The struggle is to have the African dignity. The struggle is for the welfare of the African. The struggle is the respect for the African person, the people, and the continent. But that struggle does not have one single front. There are very many fronts. Religion is one of the fronts. Politics is one of the other front. Business is the front. So that's what should be at the back of our mind. And secondly, our diversity should be used as our source of strength and unity. Yes. Because we can never be the same. So that the diversity that we have, actually the African continent has that. Our diversity should always be used as our source of strength. Now, the imperialists must not manipulate us to use it as our weakness. No, that should serve as our point of strength. But I want to get back to the issue, because he really did bring a very issue. I actually brought in a very good issue of Central African Republic and the Catholic Church. Now, when you look at most countries that were colonized by the French, actually the Catholic factor is very, very, very important. It's very key in their day-to-day running of society. Because when you look at Congo, which of course Belgians and the French are almost one and the same. So when you look at DR Congo, formerly Zaire, at the time of the independence, when Joseph Kasavubu was the ceremonial president, you know, at the time of independence, Congo, the professionals they had were Reverend Fathers. Actually, they had around 200 Reverend Fathers, or more than 200 Reverend Fathers. Now, Kasavubu, when he was brought in to become the president, he was an ex-seminarian. So he comes to become the ceremonial president. But in most areas, they drew pictures of Joseph Kasavubu seated with the Virgin Mary, with a very big rosary, saying that, look here, he's God ordained, he's coming to clean, he's coming to you know, to bless the land, something like that. So you see, trying to work on the minds of the common Congolese who's a Catholic. Now, also when Mobutu Sese Seko becomes president, actually in the cathedral in Kinshasa, he used to say this, that I sleep in heaven and then come back in the morning to actually implement what God has told me. So those were words of so that tried to show that, look here, my leadership is God ordained. So these are some of the areas where really leaders actually have used religion to manipulate society. But again, that said, that is why this week is very, very important, because once you realize that yes, we are people of different faiths, how do we bridge the gap? How do we work together? And this is where I actually, you see in Nigeria when they had the conflict, one of the ways to end the religious conflict, the vote is still on. They said, look here, if the president is Christian, then the vice president should be Muslim. And you see, when Goodluck Jonathan became after Yaradua, when he became president, he had problems. Why? Is because Olusegun Obasanjo, who's a Christian, had served his 2 terms. Now, when a Muslim comes in Yaradua, 2 years down the road, he dies on the way. So the Muslims say, look here, still our time. It's still our time. And they say, look here, no, but the Constitution says the voice should step in. So you see, that's why Muhammad Buhari came in, defeating Goodluck Jonathan. Yes, because the Muslims still said, no, it is still our time. So I just know how do we bring out that. Now, here in Uganda, when Yona Okoth, where I was retiring as the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda. You remember the competition? We had this man from Kamuli, who was by that time the Bishop of Jinja. Then we had Zividi Masereka. We had very serious contenders. But now look here, Buganda had never had an Archbishop. And there was silent talk that in the event that we don't get to Muganda, then we're going to have the province of Buganda. I think it was in 1995. It was around 94, 95. 95, yes. It's about this time, 95. So, and we see there are serious forces that came in to say, look here, I think Nkoyo should be the compromise candidate, and to bring to bring the church together. So now this brings us to what we call intra-religious or faith conflicts. That even within a religion, you have those. A very good example are the Muslims in Uganda. You find you have the Chivuli, and you have the old Kampala. So this week is very, very important that we should harmonize. How do we come together for a common good? How do we work together so that we can champion development and we can champion reforms for the common mwananchi.
Given the history that we've had with religion and all these religious conflicts, the inter, and stuff like that, because we've seen them, all these efforts are intended to actually forge a mutual understanding, a mutual relationship that, yes, we can actually be here. In the Ugandan context, for example, you remember the 1963 formation of the UJCC by the likes of Bishop Sabiti. Those were here that particular time. Now, UJCC has been here for all those years since 1963. And of course 2001 the Intelligence Council comes on now to incorporate, because UJCC was focused to only their religions. In 1970 I think 4 September, when Idi Amin actually decreed and banned the other religions out here. He actually even banned many of these other religions, but yes, he just maintained their headquarters. For example, the Orthodox Church also suffered that same fate, but they maintained their Namongona headquarters, but then the other Orthodoxies across the country actually they were closed. But you know, there was that. I think it was in 1972 that Idi Amin actually mooted the discussion over forming the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, which of course has also been here. Like, it has also caused some other issues, like he says, the other people say we're not part of that outfit. Now, 2001, in Uganda here, we now formed the Inter-Religious Council of Uganda, saying, okay, there is UJCC that has only these Christians ecumenically. They convene there. But yet again, we also have this other religion and this other religion, which are also recognized as distinct faiths and religions in this particular country. So they come into that. The idea is we're not going to share podiums or pulpits or churches or whatever it is, but we're coming together for common interest and common challenges that are in there. looking at all this history that we've had seen here in Uganda, in Kenya, and everywhere, whenever there are, especially elections, like we've just had an election here and across, you see these outfits playing out. What is the religious, what are the religious organizations saying? We need to send ambassadors, religious ambassadors, peace ambassadors, go and actually do these things. Now they come from Kenya, we send ours to Kenya, we send ours across the country, across the region, and do all these things too. From the history that we've seen, and of course we've persistently had these violences, raptures, and then a number of quite a number of issues. Do you think that still we can bank on religion to actually help us organize our societies and say for a vibrant Africa, we really think and are sure that if we put religion at the forefront, then we will have a vibrant Africa. We'll try to achieve the African Dream 2063 that was launched in 2013.
That being the case has also some gray areas. First of all, by the mere fact that they exist as corporate bodies, they have interests and they have aspirations that distinguish them from others. Now, I think for purposes of harmony, like the week is, people are saying, no, we can leave aside those smaller differences, but we can focus on a bigger picture. Now, when you are doing that, you also need to do two things. First of all, you need to move from, because these religions, like we said, most of them have their headquarters outside of here. The Protestant church may not have a very close relationship with the Church of England, but they have some connection. But the Catholic Church has a very strong connection with the Vatican. That much as certain decisions can be taken in branches, in countries, but serious decisions have to be endorsed by the Vatican.
They're the center where they come from.
Exactly, the center of authority. And Muslims, 50-50. But now, the most important thing here is the religious leaders need, first of all, to appreciate that, first of all, we're Africans. And by the mere fact that we're Africans, there are certain things that we need to appreciate, even when we are heading institutions that are controlled from outside of Africa. That is very key, because then we need to promote the African in us and the African values. And that's why you have had the church in Africa very crucial on issues of culture and values. Because the West has no value, has no culture. You know, people are moving by what they believe, and that is all. Now Africa is different, because an African comes from a family, comes from a tribe, so there is a lot of levels of cultural interaction. Now, if that's to be done, first of all, is that the African leaders, religious leaders, need to appreciate the fact that we are leading a group of people who are unique, who are different, first of all. And the second thing is that, how do you now bring in these other religious organizations that are not necessarily what I could call
the pagans?
No, the big pagans, but there are religions that are mushrooming.
The indigenous.
They may not be indigenous.
They may not even be indigenous, but
it's a church. It is the headquarter. It is everything. It has a bishop. It has a priest. It has, you know, it doesn't answer to any authority.
Like the late Visaka.
They are independent.
Yeah, they are independent in their own ways. So how do we bring them on board, that they can also join in the mainstream religious organizations? And then, because they are even sometimes they complain that they are not consulted, but there is no structure that you can say at this level we can interact with this one at this, because the church has grown up and it's a full church. It's the headquarter, it is everything. Now beyond that, there are also those that have broken out of the mainstream churches. They may not be at ease of coming and relating and getting back into those that they broke away from. Now, but the other important and most crucial thing is that the funding, some of these churches are funded from externally and for purposes of whatever they want to promote. And I think that's where the African governments are having issues. That in some countries they are saying for you to get money, that money has to be declared. And then others are saying, but we are an NGO. Actually, in Uganda now, churches are registered as NGOs.
Actually, the faith-based organization.
Yes.
Churches moved in 2016.
Yes,
in 2016.
Yes.
They moved from NGOs.
From NGOs.
To faith-based organization.
Yeah, so... and you know,
but you see, that's also another very good discussion. Are faith-based organizations churches or mosques or whatever that is, because they're all these faith-based organizations and faith-based entities.
Yes.
And I think it's very clearly written in our NGO, the NGO Act of 2016, as amended. But it's also another very good discussion, because when you look at the activities here, you personally talked about it here and said, when you look at the education setting, for example, if you go back and look at the draft paper for the second National Development Plan, you will notice that 80% of that entire development plan was hinged on interfaith-based entities or religious faith-based entities, and because you could just simply tell if you have all these schools belonging to religious entities, you have all these health facilities belonging to all of them. Look at the media houses in this country. You will notice that about 60-78% of the media houses here are in the hands of religious people or faith-based entities, organizations. So you see religion virtually everywhere circulated in our societies, and just looking at that by itself, does it help us foster a way forward? Does it help us go on? We, in a country, Article 7 of our Constitution is very clear that Uganda shall not adopt a state religion. When you look at, for example, our marriage laws in this country, you will see that the marriage law of 1904, which talks about the civil marriage laws, it is the same law that the other Christians now, it's also actually interpreted as the Christian marriage law. And Christians are also having this problem. And you see, it brings the discussion of religion and Christianity. Now, in 1906, September, the Muslims came out to say, but we have nothing to do with that particular one. Then they got their own, the Mohammedan Act, which also said the Mohammedan Act of Marriage and Divorce of the Mohammedans. Much time later, I think in the 40s, then the Hindus also came up with their own, the Hindu Act, the Hindu Marriage Act. Now, these are the different forms of marriages. Christians are saying, why did the Muslims have their own? Because for the Muslims, they are not subjected to much of the things that the Christians go through. And this all brings the discussion. Now, it comes back to the politicians, it comes back to those who are governing the country, and then they look at and say, you have a soft spot on the other ones, but then you're high-handed on us. And then we talk about interfaith harmony. Do we look at all the things, or it is just the niceties that don't help us forge a way forward?
But at the same time, if government, because I think the idea, the gentleman agreement is that you tell us what you want to do, and then we can use that to help you do it very well. But sometimes, if you are going to create the harmony of all of us, the three, then we have to create, we have to limit the freedom of individual, that when one is talking, the others have to keep quiet, because that's already the limitation on the freedom. Otherwise, everyone will be talking. Now, once you do that, it means the harmony then comes at a cost, which must be there. But at the same time, when you look at, you draw back from the origins of these religions, that a lot of what happens practiced in a religion is actually the culture of the founders of that religion. And then as Africa, the unfortunate is, even when we have now African teachers and leaders of religion, we are still subjected to the same treatment, like everything about Africa is bad. We have in this religion, in this country today, people who go to these churches and they cannot even go for treatment because they believe that you will just pray
and then
you'll get healed.
And then God will do it.
Yes.
Maybe if I can also come in there. Yeah, because I've seen President Yoweri Museveni and a number of presidents actually calling upon religious leaders that look, yes, it's very important to tell your followers to work for the kingdom of heaven, but also tell them to work for the for where they are, and also actually questioning them against miracles of money, that this miraculous riches, because ideally even in the African tradition,
never
everybody was a worker. That you had to work hard to achieve what you have to achieve. Even Jesus himself was a worker, used to work, showing that actually work is God ordained and it's the only way that you can achieve what you want to achieve. But again also, because when you've brought a number of issues showing the rivalries, the contradictions between one religion and the other, I think that's why this week is very important, the Harmony Week. Out of all that, how do we forge a way forward? Out of all that, how do we live together as a people? Because now, if you're in a society, you have a Muslim, you have a Christian, you have a pagan, you have the other. So you must always find what you call the lowest common multiple, the LCM. What brings you together so that you can live together in harmony without actually antagonizing the other. We've seen intermarriages between these religions. Where you find that one is a Muslim, the other is a Christian, and the marriage is actually going on. So these are some of the key issues that we have to understand. And maybe also, because we have now the Interreligious Council of Uganda, I think now this becomes, this week, they have to account to the people that look here, ever since our inception, these were the rivalries, the contradiction, and this is what we've managed to solve. Now we are coming together. Now you saw the other day in Ghana, when the most respected religious leader,
the chief imam,
yes. So when he was celebrating his 100th birthday,
he actually went to a Catholic church.
So
that's what in 2019 actually, he was celebrating 100 years in 2019.
So he was breathing that, saying, look,
the chief mufti said, on my 100th birthday, I shall go to the Catholic church and to do my birthday there. And the ceremony was exactly that.
And the ceremony was there, and I think that is now, that was the
chief mufti went to church and actually sat on chairs like this, which is not a fashion of the mosque. Can we have that here? Can we achieve that here? Would the people actually understand if Sheikh Mubaji said, I am celebrating 70 years, for example, I'm only saying, and he says, my celebrations are going to be at All Saints, or Namirembe, or, you know, would first of all the people understand? Would he be welcomed there by those others? I am coming with my delegation of 100 other imams or sheikhs with me. Would the Muslims, first of all, even understand that, wouldn't they think that this man is betraying them? Or just look at those things, because you may seem to agree politically, and all of you say we are for this particular political ideology. But then when it comes to now issues of faith, and Jagenda is going to Victory Church in Indeba, Mututa is going to All Saints, Cole is going to then you differ, then you become enemies instantly, finally, as we're getting out of
there is what we call religious extremism and fanatism. Sometimes when you talk of religious extremism, we are looking only at the Muslims and the Arabs, as culture, because we have seen people, but it does not stop only at that. All religions can be that bad. What if you are not accommodative, if you are not looking at the common good, like we discussed? Because if Mubaji did that, then the next day you will see people calling him either Mukafiri or something like that. And if Rwanga also did that, people will also begin. But it begins with leaders. I'm sure even the Supreme Mufti, call him, of Ghana, did not start that today. He has been living it. But now what we need to do is to open up a bit, to push the limits that this interaction should not only stop at the interreligious council, because rarely to even these people go to mosques and churches and pray together. It's rare. But as they lead people towards that commonality, let's also create avenues where we can be together, dine together, celebrate together. We have had cases even when we go for national functions and someone is called the Muslim to pray and the Catholic comes to pray or a Protestant to pray, and the other people will say, what about the Seventh ones? With the Seventh, we are not also given chance at the podium. In other words, sometimes we are promoting the personal benefit, not necessarily having to look at the common good. But that said, I think the other thing that also need to be looked at is to us as a Christian or as a Muslim, what is my role as a leader? Because you also lead at that level. That I can do to bring unity and harmony, beginning with your own organization, like he has put it. We also have intra-religious disputes. And these disputes can also spill over. For we're trying to undo or undermine the other, then you realize that when we fight, many of our followers definitely don't understand sometimes, or they will even fight the more. But for me, what I believe is that the religious leaders need to lead by example. Okay. Because there are many things that people can do, and that's why last time when you heard about this story of Ontagali, everyone was like, what? I mean, but it's a normal thing that happens to when any person did it. So
to any religious person who is not at that level.
Yeah, any person, that is an ordinary thing. So religious people also need to lead by example, especially in the African context, that we are leading Africans who are unique. We are leading people who are coming from different cultures, and we are leading people who also have the thinking of their own. Okay. In Africa, for example, but last time when I was talking to this old man from Kenya, Mzee Tangula, he was giving me a story, and I got interested in it. He said, before these people came to colonize us, we had our own surgeons. People would be operated, and they will heal. We had our own nurses. We had all the types of
their own midwives,
systems. That you can do. Systems. Yes, a woman will be delivered from home by a midwife, and the child
actually,
is okay.
but giving birth was not a medical affair.
Yes,
we just medicalized it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't a medical affair.
So you now cannot say that all this that were done were evil, like the devil was born here. No. So we also still have a lot of good things that Africans actually. It has also been proven that some of our medicine is better than the modern medicine. We only lacked the way to upgrade. He was telling me that when it comes to issues of syphilis, the African medicine has been proven to be more effective
over
than
time
the modern
than the others. Fine, thank you so much. Finally, from your call, we just have 1 minute, and just sum it up in 1 minute, and we get out of here.
Well, I must say that in this Interfaith Harmony Week, let's see what brings us together. But also, as Africans, we should stop this business of demonizing what is ours. That, for example, when the whites go to the moon, it is technology, but when an African goes down the waters, it is evil. Thank you.
Well, that's a very good one. Yeah. When the whites go to the moon, it's technology. When our own go to the top of the what they call the bottom.
Actually, one who said that it was all craft, but they perfected theirs up to the aircraft. Ours stayed at witchcraft.
Okay. Witchcraft. Well, thank you so much. That ends the debate here on Pan-African Friday. My name is Jagan Nasemakola Ziksok on behalf of the team here, Call Monday Amazima and James Mututa. We will return Friday again. We thank you so much and wishing the Uganda People's Defense Forces a happy 40th anniversary tomorrow, Tarehe Sita. Stay blessed, for God and my country. Good morning and bye for today. Thank you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.